Hi, I'm Haskell, and I'm on the Pints Ponytails Show. There's something crawling all over my hand, and they're like stinging.
Think something new under the sun.
Hello!
Yes! How are we doing, lads? There we go, you're ready. You're ready. I'm good, man. Good,
James,
man.
How you doing?
Are you good? You well?
Yeah, very good.
Come on through.
Have a seat. First of all, cheers. Welcome.
Good to meet you, mate. There we go. It's a very different
podcasts like this.
Well, we look forward to talking all about your, not just fatherhood, but your career highlights as well, and DJing is going to be obviously a massive part of that.
Okay.
So you may have noticed we've got 5 different hairstyles behind us.
Yes.
So they're 5 different levels, okay? So you'll be in level 1, learning the pony, level 2, learning the 3-strand plait. Then we have bunches, pigtails, and then finally we have the fishtail plait for level 5 at the end. Now, there's a slight twist to it, because as we go through each level, the questions at the start are quite easy and straightforward, but they get more challenging as the hairstyles get more challenging.
It's Bodhi, isn't it?
Bodhi.
How would she rate your hair skills at the moment out of 10?
Well, I certainly, because she's starting to be self-aware, so she kind of like starts like posing and looking. So she's looking at herself in the mirror, and she liked the plait. But yeah, I think I've got a lot of improvements to go. That's why I reached out to you guys when I first saw what you were doing. I was like, thank God there's someone out there, because being a single parent and then also being a girl dad, you know, I'm not precious about, you know, there's a whole pretense of masculinity, all this kind of stuff. It's all bollocks. Like, I've got a daughter. It doesn't matter how you are, what you're into. I want to make sure I can do her hair, sort things out.
So we're going to look at the high pony then for level 1 to start off with. The first thing we want to do is focus on the brushing.
Right.
As you can see, it's a little bit messy.
Sharon's had an absolutely wild night.
So the way I like to think about the brushing is separating it into 3 different zones. So you've got the end zone here, the middle zone, and then the top of the head. Don't start at the top of the head, because then we tend to hit all of the different knots on the way down. It can be quite painful.
Yes.
So instead, what we want to do is just push the thumb into the hair, hold the other side, and then you can pull it through.
We've got a good bond in it, you know. Very different. It's very different relationship that I have with her than my my wife does. It's you know, they have more of a primal kind of bond and stuff like that. But with me, it's very funny. She's into a good little routine. She she loves it. but I like I said, I always try to brush her hair in the morning, get her ready for school, and do that kind of stuff. And she loves it.
So round 1, let's hold our ponytails up.
Can you take her head off?
She comes off.
She's quite fit.
Here we go.
I'm happy with that. That's actually good.
Great. Yeah,
Level 1, completed it.
Level 1.
Nice,
Bosh.
James. Well done.
Well done.
Level 2, now we move on to the 3-strand plait.
Right.
Now, you were saying before, you've been taught the plait before.
Yeah, I mean, so I always forget. So obviously, I know you separate it into the three strands.
Yeah.
It goes over. I basically can make a plait.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, you're like, oh, hold on a minute. I've gone like over, and I haven't. Because the middle stays in the middle, doesn't it?
Left over middle, right over middle.
Yeah, left over. Yeah, that's what I do. But then I think at some point I forgot which one I did, and then
it gets a bit convoluted.
Yeah. How old is she?
She's 4 in August. So she's dinky. Yeah. She's great. She's a great
really
age.
Fun age now, isn't it?
Yeah, she's just discovered. She found a trunkie, and now she's obsessed with it. So this morning, I picked her up from home. She had to put her sunglasses and things in the trunkie. I had to pull her to the car, put the trunkie in, and had to get out at the school, take the glasses back out. And she's like, "Daddy, get out."
It's funny, isn't it? You look back, you've already done a day before you drop them off at school.
Well, I always think as well, my big thing with them, with kids, it's very easy if you're tired and you're stressed or whatever. But I always think at some point she ain't going to want any of this. Yeah. So I always think, and I always live very presently because of my sporting career and always like living in the moment. So I don't get too sort of caught up in looking forward and behind. But I always think, you know, when you go, couldn't you do this? You think, oh. But then I think, no, do it, because one day she ain't going to want to, she ain't going to ask you. And there'll be someone else, and you'll be like, right, no, so I just do it all. Can we do this? Yeah, we can.
That's the hardest thing though as a parent sometimes, isn't it? Because you're always thinking about the next thing, and you always feel like there's a bit of friction. And if you're not careful, you get stuck in that mental time travel of, we need to be here, but I'm frustrated with...
No, but my sporting career really helps you do that. So I don't ever like I don't ever get worried about future. I just sit and think, what have I got to do today? Like this morning I woke up and I was like, right, went to bed last night, I was like, right, I've got physio this morning, I've got you guys, I've got this, I've got some work stuff, I'm picking her up from nursery, I'm going to do this is what I've got. That's all I thought about.
Is that something you developed yourself in sport? Did you see a sports psychologist?
Yeah, I've had therapy since I was 17 to help with performance in sport. But obviously talking to someone from that length of the period, you find out you've got stuff about yourself, blind spots. I had some stuff around confidence issues, things I didn't really deal very well with criticism a bit. So I got taught very early on to do a lot of visualization, live in the present. If you ever had doubts, stop and change those doubts in your head. Even, say, for example, you imagine missing a tackle, stop, imagine yourself making that tackle, what it would feel like, even the sensation of a shoulder on a leg and how that feels. So a lot of those lessons help me now with music, DJing, performing and whatever. And also with parenting, because I always think as well, because you become very much more self-aware and self-reflective, you think about how you were with your parents. You go, I hate you, I do this, and you just think, they just don't know, they're just not aware of anything. Yeah. And so while you've got to value their opinion if they say, I need this, I need that, you've also got to remember that you're kind of steering the ship. That's why I'm always a bit, sort of roll my eyes and, say you've got to make your let kids make a decision and choose. Like, not really. I think my kid would eat chocolate all day long, would be called Peppa Pig by now, and never do anything and never try anything. So I'm like, I think I'll guide them to the point where they can have an opinion. But I always think every time, if she asked me to do something, I just think value that moment, because I think about my parents, who I was still very close with. My dad passed away last year. I'd always give him a kiss every time I saw him, always give him a hug. Always say, like, I love you to my mum, I love you to my dad. And for me, that's really important. So I just think I tried to instill that into her. Like, if you can ask me to do something, we want to go and do something, or stay up a little bit later. There's no stress. There's no stress, because one day they ain't going to be in the house anymore, Exactly.
I love that. I love that arc from and the lessons from professional sport into parenting as well.
Do you think, we were chatting about this earlier, do you think you came into rugby a decade too early?
What, in terms of being able to build my personality and be able to showcase?
In terms of, I remember you coming onto the scene, and I felt like people couldn't deal with your personality.
Yeah, I mean, people can't really deal with me now. Like, I'm very much an acquired taste. Like, I'm a bit like Marmite, I think, but I'm very comfortable with that. I think, I've lived a crazy life. Like, and I was on holiday with someone the other day, and I was like, we were pissed out, and I was like winding him up, and they were talking about stuff, and I started listing things I'd done. I said, I've written 8 books, we've done stand-up tour, we've got a podcast.
So you've written 8 books?
Yeah. Wow. So I've got 3 health and fitness, 2 autobiographical, 1 self-help, and 2 with the podcast.
Because you were listening to...
I was listening to one on the way back from Cornwall yesterday about a rugby initiation, when a guy did a handstand.
Oh yeah, that's what a flanker. Yeah. With a guy, stuck a beer bottle up his arse. For some on bizarre reason, no one asked him to do it. No one had any idea how he do it, and then he basically flipped back to his feet. And what he thought was going to do was eject some sort of beer fountain. But obviously, if you don't prep the area, you're going to get other things coming out of the beer. And he basically shouted on the side of the boat. Everyone's like screaming. I was dressed as a woman at the time, and I was like, what is going on? And so anyway, that was kind of carnage. That's chapter 1 of my autobiography.
It was so good.
That was a Sunday Times bestseller,
I was howling.
Yeah, we did that, and then I got 35 records out on different labels. I had 40 by the end of the year. I've got gin and tequila and whiskey, and then I play for England. And that's a bit, I forget how they go, I play rugby.
Well, she's going to ask you for a 3-strand plat now. Okay, so 2 fingers, James, up through, like this. And then you do the bus.
Yeah.
And then you look.
You've
already been turned into a meme.
Such a child.
That's pretty good. Yeah. That's it. And then over the top there.
Yeah, but then how do you? It's the last dinky bit.
Yeah, that's it. So all I would say there, probably what's happened is that the strands aren't that even. But that's pretty good for a first proper record.
Yeah. That is, and if you bear in mind at our events, we'd spend 45 minutes just repping on that.
Yeah.
And if the dad was at that level as his starting point, he'd absolutely nail it.
Well, let's be honest with you.
Hold her up. Let's have a look.
Hold her up. I mean, yours is not tighter on mine's a bit, but it's not.
That's decent. That's decent.
Right, we'll get there.
That's decent. Show these guys.
There we go.
Pop
it over there.
Sorry, babe.
That's level 2, so we're going to move on to level 3 now, James, which are bunches, okay?
I've had a go at bunches.
Yeah.
But again, I like the idea with the put it into ponytail first, help the plait, put the fingers in to separate it.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So basically, everything that you've learned so far, we're going to strip it down so that we do it on a smaller scale.
Okay.
So first of all, with the bunchies, we just want to start with a bit of a blank canvas. So brush the hair through like you did at the start. So the skills kind of accumulate.
Yeah. Bristle brush.
If you get the flyaways, the bristle brush is really good.
Is it?
Yeah.
So we're going to use the pintail or wrap pin comb here.
Yeah.
If you just go up exactly between the eyes, and then you just start to move the hair off, to one side, and
As
then,
I poking in the eyes.
and then if you just keep separating that parting all the way down to the base of the neck around the back, use a band, and just do a loose double figure of 8. So you don't have to worry too much about it being neat. You just want to set it to one side.
Oh, is that right? Am I doing like, so you go up through here? How about a power scrunch? Or get a fist of hair, lads. Right. Marketing, we need. We'll talk about it offline.
So James, have you thought a lot about your relationship with your dad since you became a dad?
Yeah, 100%. I have. I think about kind of how how he was with me, how I would be with my kids, what I liked about his parenting, what I would have done differently. But because again, I think because of the therapy and bits and pieces, you end up being self-reflective because you'll be self-aware. Because I see how people react to me, for example, and I was 8 years old when I got diagnosed with ADHD and I got put on medication, and I think but off the back of it, it's kind of taught me to be very observant of people, and my brain doesn't really ever switch off. So I kind of think about that self-awareness about with my daughter all the time, kind of how I treat her, how do I speak to her, how she views me. So I think my dad was a great dad. He's very, very present, very hardworking. I distilled lots of lessons from him. Was he flawed? Yes, of course. Was he probably a bit hypercritical? Yeah, I think so. But in terms of
do you think you would have got to where you were in your career without him being hypercritical? No, I don't think I wouldn't definitely not have achieved all the stuff I've achieved because he had a very he was always very keen on me embracing, maximising every opportunity, having a go, and sort of not being scared to do things. And he encouraged me to do lots of stuff I didn't want to do. He got me into afternoon speaking, public speaking, and all that kind of stuff, and really helped me. He's a very smart man. So in terms of where I would be, no, I would never be where I am because my natural inclination is to probably be a bit shyer than I was, which sounds weird. Look, lads, considering I didn't know how to do this today, I'm pretty happy. Nice.
Yeah, it's all right.
Hold her up.
James.
Let's have a look.
No,
Level 3.
level 3.
Maybe they're
It's not
great.
terrible.
That's great.
It's actually not terrible, is it?
That's good.
Yeah. What's that? You're welcome.
I love it. Do it again,
Do it
James.
again. You're welcome.
Kiss my lips again.
Okay, so level 4, keep the bunches in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Matt will take you through the pigtails.
Level 4 now, moving on to the pigtails. So exactly what we did before, we're just going to plait them. Simple.
Got you. So stick 2 fingers in it.
Stick 2 fingers in.
Perfect.
And then we'll do the hair. Yeah. So James, one thing that we get a lot of dads who come to our events who have split from their partners. And they're navigating parenthood by themselves. From what I've seen, it seems like the relationship with you and Chloe is really amicable. But how are you getting on with it, mate? How are you finding it?
The honest choice, it's break up. No one ever gets married to break up. You know what I mean? And I think for me, it's very hard when you separate. But ultimately, if you have children, the truth of the matter is, it's no longer about you. It's about your child. You've decided to bring something into this world, and you need to actively consider what they do. And it doesn't become about your kind of ego anymore. You've got to put that to one side and make sure that the children has the best possible life. They didn't choose to come into this world. You brought them into this world. You have a responsibility to give them the best opportunities. And I think with me and Chloe, we handle that very well because, I want my daughter to have the best possible life. My parents are still together. Chloe's parents are still together. And I think, lots of people have successful families without, a family unit per se. And it's much more common. But I think for me, it's a very important thing. And I just always think, what's the best thing for my daughter? How do I keep the emotions based around her? What do we do? And we both do a very good job of it. And I think, is it easy? No. Is it challenging at times? Yes. But I also, I think it's very,
it's a massive issue for me of people weaponising their children and using them against them and bad-mouthing your partner to your children. You are already corrupting someone, you know. And I just don't think that's, for me, the way to ever do anything like that. So I think, you know, if other partners get involved, that will obviously change the dynamic. But, you know, the child always has to come first in my mind. And also, you know, it doesn't really matter what you think of each other. It's not about point scoring. It's about trying to make sure that you are the best parents. And I think Chloe's an amazing mum, an amazing woman. And so I'm very, you know, very proud to have had a child with her, you know, and she's a great inspiration. I couldn't ask for any better role model for her mum, and I want to make sure that I'm a good role model for her as a dad, you know. Yeah. I was kind of quite lucky with my kind of daughter. You know, the first moment I saw her heartbeat on the scan, I was like, I'm in love, you know, and kind of. But for some people, it's harder because, you know, life changes. You've got to adjust and adapt to it. But I kind of didn't have any real struggle moments. Did I get things wrong? Yeah, of course, you know. But, you know, things like weaning and stuff was a fucking nightmare because Bodie was a bit of a spewer and you were like, oh, you know, like sort of in a restaurant, you're trying to give it this pure, and it's like, oh, God. And sort of, you know, again, just navigating those kind of issues. And then obviously, you know, if your relationship kind of declines, then, you know, the added stress of that kind of stuff. But actually, for me, I was actually all right. I really enjoyed being a parent.
Yeah. What's been the biggest surprise to you about fatherhood?
I think the emotion of it all. I think, you know, I sort of, you know, I had what I thought was quite a good grip on stuff. Right, hold on, let me just get this last fucker right there. Is that right? Have a little one, yeah. I think I was actually pretty much all right. I think, you know, it taught me kind of about just that love, and then made me reflect on how I loved other people, because I think I was very much a product of Disney. I thought you lived happily ever after. I thought you never argue with your partner. Then you have a child and you go, oh God, this is actually what primal love's like, versus kind of what, you know, you actually love people in very different ways. I think partners, you know, you love them in a completely different environment, but with children, it's like inherent, it's innate. I mean, not everyone gets it, but 99% of people do it.
If James there is a dad listening who's recently separated, they feel like they're failing somehow, or they feel, you know, super alone, what sort of advice would you give them?
So I think for me, again, you know, it's not easy because lots of people have very inflammatory relationships and things unfortunately don't go well. I think, you know, if you can pride yourself in keeping your side of the street clean and never getting a tit for tat thing is really important. I think reaching out to friends and being honest about that if it's stressful and it's hard, and also being a good parent, and like, you know, getting therapy is really important, you know, like because if you could fix yourself, you would have done it. So you've got to find some answers from somewhere. So I would ultimately reach out to people and get some help, whether it's, you know, maybe it's as simple as journaling, which is basic form of obviously therapy, but addressing your own kind of thoughts, versus getting some actual therapy, hypnotherapy, whatever it might be, getting something because you need the tools to help you really to be better.
Yeah, it's great practical advice, and the timing is perfect because you're coming to the end of that plait. I can see.
Oh, there we go.
I mean, it's a bit.
Yeah,
that was great.
They're great.
Yeah,
they're great.
You'd be proud if you dropped off at school.
Oh my God, yeah. Yes. I'm telling you about that.
Yeah.
I'll be mum. I'll be like,
exactly.
You shut your mouth. Have you seen this? That's all I've had to play with my entire life.
Okay, level 4 completed.
Level 4 complete. So, last one, the fishtail plait. So maybe Bodhi's got a kid's birthday party, maybe she wants to go as a mermaid, whatever it might be.
Gonna take... It's like, eyes down, do. Okay.
So instead of 2 fingers, we just do 1 to separate the ponytail. So you get 2 pretty equal strands.
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, this is where selection comes into play. Right. You want to select a thinner outer layer of the strand on one side, and then all you do, once you've got that separation, you just pull it over to the other side and hold it. All the way over, and just grab it with the other hand. So imagine, imagine it's a rugby ball and someone's passing it to the other side.
There we go.
There we go. He'll do that.
Spoon feed the big div, right? Yeah, come on, Yeah.
So it is the hardest
go on.
round in terms of hairstyles. It's also the hardest round in terms of questioning as well. So my question to you, James, is what? And you mentioned therapy earlier. This isn't new to you. You've been working on yourself since you were 17.
Yeah.
What are you still working on yourself as a man?
That's a very good question. What am I still working on? I think for me, you've got to constantly be aware on things like, your reaction to other people, and how sometimes, I don't always have the best temper in the world. Like I'm not going around going completely mad, but I think for me, it's very important that, and I was doing some therapy on it, that basically when you become angry, people see it as a form of strength, but actually it's you being your weakest because you're being over emotional. And I think things like that, how you handle that, particularly with, because I'm actually really good with Bodhi because, the only time I've ever shouted at her was when she tried to run into the middle of the road. And she looked so shocked. And I think for me, there's different ways of disciplining, children than my parents were about. So I think for me, that's a really important element. I think as well, my dad basically taught me a very valuable lesson. You can lie to everyone else, but you can't lie to yourself, right? And I think that's a very good lesson in life, to constantly be honest and to constantly own how you are and where you're at and how you're feeling. And also constantly being able to put your hand up and say, I'm not the finished article. I need to keep working, really. And so for me, those elements are really quite important.
How do you walk that line of being honest with yourself but not being harder on yourself?
Yeah, yes. I think, again, if you worry about the things that you can control within those things, like just saying things like, you're this and that, that's not constructive. It's going, yes, I've had, I'm not feeling great about that, but what is it I can do to fix that? And honestly, do I have a right to be upset? Because am I putting the work in? Am I changing? And if your answer is, if you're unhappy with something in your life, if you're unhappy with the job or where you are in your success, if you were to ask yourself, are you doing everything you can do to be as successful as you can be? Most of the time the answer is no. If you go, I want to be a better dad, but what are you doing about being a better dad? Are you getting therapy? Are you putting the time in? Are you trying to be, are you doing those things? And the honest answer, a lot of time, the answer is probably no. You've got to allow yourself to make mistakes. You've got to allow yourself to enjoy life, and you've got to realise you're flawed. And I think that's where you get more of a balance. Actually, the pursuit of perfection, you have to enjoy life. Essentially we are born, we die, and we've created arts and experience and everything else to sort of celebrate, to break up the time between, what being here. And so it's important to remember that, however dark things get, there are ways out of it. There is help out there if you want to find it. It's just, it's just sometimes it's not all roses and stuff. But you've also got to celebrate the little wins. And I think one of my biggest work-ons is not being. Is appreciating what I've done and what I've got, as opposed to being constantly on to the next thing, constantly trying to,
Do you look at the world differently with a girl than you would a boy?
Well, look, I think I've always been quite a good listener with people and partners and stuff. And I think with girls, it's definitely a different world for them in terms of some of the things that go on and stuff. So I think I've just tried to be a bit more aware about how I talk around her, like how I've never been the most rounded individual. I went to boarding school for a long period of time, so in the same-sex boarding school. So I had to unlearn lots of different things, and I think it's important to always try to improve. People are particularly sensitive about lots of things at the moment, and I think for me, I'm very happy to adopt common sense in certain things and be a better listener. But I even think about, how I treat her mum when it comes to parenting is how she will feel other men will be able to treat her. And all that kind of stuff is very important, and making sure that, my daughter's very beautiful, but, that's not the be all and the end all. And a lot of girls have issues with eating and bits and awareness, and a lot of it can stem from parents and mothers and bits and what they say to them. Yeah. So I always try to celebrate those other things, and I also, I try to make sure that I'm balanced. So yeah, I give it a lot of thought all the time when I see her, and because say something in the car when you're driving or whatever, you know they're listening and picking stuff up. So you kind of don't, I just don't want her to give her any prejudice that I have. I want her to find out that her own world, but I also want to impart some lessons to her around things that I know to be true. And, you know, so that's, for me, that's really important. Very traumatic. Hold on.
So you're just finishing up the fishtail.
Lads, can I say...
Yes, look at it. Look at it.
James Haskell.
Absolutely
Look
smashed
at
it.
That is lovely.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Cheers, lads. You're great coaches.
Amen. So James, ponytail, completed it.
Yeah.
3-strand plait.
Yeah.
Bunchies, pigtails.
Yeah.
And now the fishtail plait. Awesome, mate.
Lads, that is
well
good.
done.
Awesome.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Cheers, boys.
Well done.
Cheers for coming on, James. Well done, mate. Thank you so much.
That is great. Right, love you, lads. Right. See you later.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're going to
With me.
I'm joking.